Hello and welcome back. I hope you are well. Today's video topic is art supplies I regret buying, and the one at the end might surprise some people. We'll see. I do want to start this video just by saying that art supplies are down to each individual person's preferences. So with that in mind, let's get into the first thing that I regret, which is this sketchbook by Seawhite of Brighton. Now, I have other sketchbooks by them that I get along perfectly fine with, but this one is just not for me. And I do slightly regret putting that Tifa sticker on it because I don't get along with the sketchbook at all, and it's one of these rare instances where I've kind of dropped the sketchbook, kind of. So it's the paper for me. I do not get along with the paper. I got this sketchbook for studying primarily, so a lot of graphite sketching, and I do not like using graphite on this paper at all. I do not like how it feels to use graphite on the paper. I do not like how the graphite looks. I don't like how easily the graphite transfers, and I also do not like the value range that the graphite gets on this paper. Some of the darkest pencils I use that show up really dark in other sketchbooks and on other paper shows up really light on this paper. So again, it's all down to personal preferences, and this one just isn't for me. I have found that watercolour sketching looks okay on this if you're using watercolour like a pencil, and some ink is okay on this paper, so I've kind of dropped the sketchbook other than for when I'm using ballpoint pen for sketching. It works fine for that, but it just doesn't really call to me anymore. The second art supply that I regret buying is this Fabriano Artistico watercolour paper block, and it's the block part that is the problem for me. Would I buy the paper again? Absolutely. But the block has an issue. If you don't know what a watercolour block is, it's essentially a stack of watercolour paper sheets held together by glue on either 2 or 4 sides, depending on brand. This one's held down on 4 sides with one corner free for you to put something like a palette knife underneath to release a sheet when you've finished painting. And it's supposed to hold the paper down while you're painting, and that's not what this block is doing for me at all. When I'm painting, and especially if I'm painting closer to the edge, so something like a landscape or anything with a background, it will start coming away from the block in various places along the sides where there's glue. It's so bad that one painting I did on this block came off the block entirely on its own before I was even finished painting. And I've never had a problem, especially not that bad, from any other brand. I don't know if I just have a defective block or if it's what all of these are like, but it's not what I'd want to use a block for. And I do know that I would definitely buy the paper again though, because the paper itself was lovely to paint on. Now we're moving away from papers and towards art mediums, and we're starting with pencils. I bought 2 boxes of Jackson's own brand pencils to try out, and I got the 4B and the 10B, and I absolutely love the 4B. I think that they look and feel wonderful for the price, especially they're really good value. And I'm showing you the 4B here. Pencils do have slight variance between brands, so a 4B won't act exactly the same way in each brand, but there's kind of a rough range you'd expect it to fall under, and these fall under what you'd expect of from a 4B perfectly fine. The problem I have and the regret I have is with the 10B pencils. They do not act like I would expect a 10B to act at all in 2 ways. One is the value range. They do not get anywhere near as dark as even the 4B pencils. They come out much lighter. And the other problem is they have like a really weird feel to them. It almost feels waxy, like wax has been added to them. They don't feel like pencils in the traditional graphite sense. They almost feel a little bit like some of the waxier carbon pencils I have, and They're interesting to sketch with, I will say that. I do still use these 10Bs to sketch with, but they are not what I bought them for. I bought them because I wanted some really, really soft, dark pencils, and that's just not what I got with these at all. And yeah, it's very, very odd. Keeping with graphite, the next art supply I regret are these XL graphite blocks by Derwent, and it's simply just because I don't really use them. They're interesting in theory, but I don't really ever have a need to use them outside of maybe figure drawing, and I tend to reach for other things like my charcoal for figure drawing rather than these. And they also get everywhere. I don't mind working in things like charcoal, and I have that expectation of charcoal getting everywhere, but whenever I pick these up, they're just so messy. And I do end up having that blue on me for the rest of the video. So anticipate blue fingers and thumbs for the rest of the video. Now we're on to the final art supply that I regret buying, and it might surprise some people. It's the Ohuhu alcohol markers that I got for Christmas. I'm counting these as something I regret because I specifically asked for these for Christmas, and I I regret it so much now. And there's a massive problem I've had with these that has ruined my sketchbooks and ruined some of my sketches. The problem that I've had, I've done some digging on, and it's apparently seems to be a defect in these markers. It doesn't happen to everyone, it happens to a really small number of people, and I'm just really unlucky that I got one of the sets that this happens to. What I'm experiencing with this set is yellow staining. So this is not the same thing as bleed through. When you use alcohol markers, it's expected that it bleeds through to the other side of the sheet you're working on and maybe onto the following sheet, so you put something behind the sheet you're working on, like a scrap piece of paper, and then it prevents it from getting onto the other page, but it'll still bleed through to the other side. That's completely normal and what I expect from alcohol markers. This is not the problem I've been having. The yellow staining happens a few days later. Once you've done your drawing and you close your sketchbook, 3 to 7 days later, depending on the paper I've found, it's different for each paper, you open your sketchbook back up again and yellow stains start appearing, not just on the sheets, and I mean multiple sheets, underneath the drawing you did, but the sheets on top of the drawing you did as well. So the previous sketches you've done, the previous spreads you've done, all have yellow stains on them. And I really regret asking for this set because when I got it, I got super excited, super happy, and I went into my sketchbook and I went ham. I went ham using them, and I went back to previous spreads and coloured in ink pieces that I'd done. And then a week later, multiple spreads and sketches are now covered in dark yellow stains, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I am really sad about how it's ended up making some of my sketches look. So, like I said, I did do some digging on this, and I ended up looking on Amazon.com's reviews for this set, and I searched for the word yellow, and in the set of nearly 2,000 reviews, 3 reviews came up mentioning the yellow staining, and I'll put some of them on screen. So this isn't something that only I've experienced, but it seems to only happen to a small set of people, so it's likely a defect. I would like to try other Ohuhu markers in the future. Like, I know that they release the Kala range, and hopefully I'd have better luck with them, but for now I'm just going to stick to my Shinhan markers, my small range of those, because I know that they do not cause this problem at all. And yeah, it's kind of sad, to be honest. And with that, these are the art supplies I regret buying. Let me know in the comments what art supplies you regret buying. I'd love to hear everyone's different experiences with different products because we are so varied and have different preferences. And thank you ever so much for watching, and also to the people that responded to the poll for today's video topic. And I will see you next time. Bye!